The Florida Panthers just completed a 5-1-1 homestand, which means that they are currently in a good position to make a run. And we're going to discuss how teams should be scared of the Panthers shall they make the postseason, and discuss the Florida Panthers now hitting the road for the first time in over a month.
You're Locked On Panthers, your daily podcast on the Florida Panthers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome into this Monday, March 20th edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. Thank you for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. I'm Armando Velez, and you can follow me on Twitter at MondoMan12. Follow the show account on Twitter at LO_FLA Panthers. Don't forget to subscribe to the show and send in your screenshot of your subscription to the Locked On Florida Panthers YouTube page, and send in your 5-star rating on whichever podcast app you listen to the show. And send it over to me at LO_FLA Panthers on Twitter, or email it to me at LockedOnFLAPanthers@gmail.com for your chance to win 2 free tickets to the Florida Panthers versus Toronto Maple Leafs game on April 10th. Best of luck, everybody. So the Cats, my goodness, what a weekend, what a week, what a stretch for this team, defeating the New Jersey Devils. And let's just talk quickly about just Saturday night's game and the Panthers just consistently driving play. The Panthers were not allowing the New Jersey Devils any space, especially Aleksander Barkov on Jack Hughes. That is Orlando-born Jack Hughes for you. And the chances that the Florida Panthers had, especially early, Carter Verhaeghe hitting the post, a 2-on-1 with Eric Staal and Colin White. And then last night's game, well, I'm recording this on a Sunday, this drops on a Monday, so 2 nights ago, the game on Saturday about just the trading chances, about the Florida Panthers were that team that were consistently hitting the net, getting the second chances, get the puck retrieval was great for the Panthers, but Akira Schmid was just making stop after stop. And it felt like when the New Jersey Devils went up 1-0 on a shorthanded goal by Nico Heach, when the Florida Panthers drew that penalty, it was their fourth line creating that opportunity with about 30 seconds to a minute of offensive zone time, trading chances, and then Colin White draws a cross check, which encouraging at the time, but the Florida Panthers allowing a shorthanded goal was just such, it kind of took the air out of the building, for at least it felt like it from watching it on TV. But you think about how the Panthers were just, even before that, dominating the play and just consistently making things happen. And let's also consider that Carter Verhaeghe went to the box for a pretty soft holding call on Siegenthaler, and Eric Staal was boarded by Lazar, and it was not called. And even when 34 seconds on the power play going into the second period, the New Jersey Devils had nothing going on that. And then the second goal for the Panthers was a series of unfortunate events where Barkov gets tangled up. He's a little banged up. There's a shot thrown at the net, like hits the face of Mark Staal, lays on the ice. Bobrovsky loses his stick. He's kind of looking over at Mark Staal a little bit, to wondering how his teammate is doing, loses his position, and then Jesper Boquist gets the goal to make it 2-0 just 5 minutes after the first goal. And against the New Jersey Devils team, yeah, they're the 5th youngest team in the NHL. Yeah, they're kind of similar to what last year's Panthers were, but you saw the trading of chances if you watch Saturday night's game, how the Panthers really fit in well with their style of play. I mean, it was just, not even 12 months ago where the Florida Panthers were eliminated by the Tampa Bay Lightning, and they were used to that style of play for this team. And like I said, the game at the time, before the Florida Panthers scored 4 goals in the second period, the game kind of felt lost in that first period because of their lack of converting on their scoring chances. And man, throughout this homestand, the Florida Panthers have outchanced their opponents, which we'll get more of that into the second segment here. But just but also after the second goal, where the New Jersey Devils were starting to dominate the zone time, and even when the Florida Panthers went on the power play again, Dawson Mercer goes by 2 Florida Panthers players shorthanded as well. And it's at this time you're thinking, ugh, for this Panthers team. But I feel like for this team, the momentum shifts, especially lately, usually start. It doesn't necessarily need to result in a goal, but you need to, like, when you see that fourth line buzzing of the stall line, White and company, and you when you see that, then that creates that sends such a different message for the Florida Panthers uh, going into the locker room. And it helps that with the Devils getting a too many men on the ice penalty towards the end of the period, of creating a little bit confusion. We all thought that Ryan Lomberg was interfered, but it ended up being too many men on the ice as the New Jersey Devils were going for a change, and the person going off the ice was that person who was on the ice as that sixth person. But that third period, it was Bobrovsky. Listen, we spoke about how the stretch of Sergei Bobrovsky between the Chicago, Winnipeg, and even the Montreal game, not the best stretch for Sergei Bobrovsky, but he in on Saturday night, he was great. He was more to what the Sergei Bobrovsky we've seen in the beginning of 2023. But one of the biggest plays in the beginning of the third period was Eetu Luostarinen with a little bit of an open net, gets a big block right in front as Eric Halla had a chance to score. And we even saw a line change in the third period where Sam Reinhart goes on the top line, and then and then shortly after, 6 minutes into the third period, Montour's shot goes off of Mark Stahl, and then Barkov is right place, right time there to make it 2-1 Devils at the time. And Mark Stahl, I hope he had a nice little ice bath after Saturday night's game, because he was getting beat up and pucks getting he was like a puck magnet out there on Saturday night. And then Panthers converting on the power play goal, Sam Reinhart redirecting to make it tied at 2. And now that's 4 straight games for Sam Reinhart on the score sheet. 5 goals in the last 4 games, including the empty netter at the end. And then let's think about the play of Verhaeghe too. That he's just easily going into the zone, draws 3 defenders towards him, and then Matthew Tkachuk goes straight through. Nobody picks him up. Not a single white jersey around him, and then goes forehand, backhand to make it 3-2, and the Panthers leading. And those 3 goals happening within 2 minutes of each other, 2.5 minutes of each other. And how the Florida Panthers have just been performing in third periods lately has just been encouraging to see. And how we were talking about the first 60 games, how the Florida Panthers, when they're down in the third period, you could just forget about it. But now it's not like that anymore. At least this recent stretch. I hope it's not. I hope this stretch isn't the only one for this team. But you also think about it: 3-22-2 when trailing after the second period overall on this season, and then Saturday night made it 3. And you think about the the little bit of a scare too before the empty net goal, where Sam Bennett had an opportunity to backhand it in on a loose puck into the empty net, but it was just out of his reach. And then Sam Reinhart, it was an icing when it was 6-on-5 and just misses in the net, but then it manifests to an empty net goal. And man, what a stretch for Sam Reinhart in these last 4 games as well. What a stretch for Sasha Barkov, Matthew Tkachuk too. It just overall, this Panthers team, they're bringing the physicality. They're they're just finding different ways to win. I mean, they were aggressive too. 39-20 in hits goes perfect on the PK. Yeah, they allowed a shorthanded goal, but they don't allow a power play chance as that's a New Jersey Devils team, young, buzzing, and for the Panthers, they couldn't capitalize on Akira Schmid early, but man, they found a way to do it later on into the game. We waited a little bit of time until the third period. There's a little bit of a fear that we were going to see this team shut out, but they haven't been shut out on home ice in over 2 years. But man, the what a win! What and 5-1-1 on the homestand, which just sets this team up perfectly as they're going to hit the road. But we're going to transition over to segment number 2, where we're going to talk more about how the Florida Panthers have performed, how things are looking for them after this 5-1-1 homestand, and we're going to put more into perspective and ask and if this can continue on the road, and also discuss that teams should be scared of the Florida Panthers if they do, in fact, make the postseason. We're going to discuss that next here on the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. But first, we're going to tell you all about Athletic Greens. And our next partner is a product that I literally use every day. And I started taking AG1 because I wanted to take a little bit of a break from the coffee. If you're from South Florida or anywhere near that region, you know that coffee runs that community. And I wanted to take a little bit of a break from it. So that's why I started taking my Athletic Greens. And right now, it's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with daily nutrition. And it's just one scoop in a cup of water every day. That's it. No need for a million different pills and supplements to look out for your health. To make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/NHL Network. Again, that's athleticgreens.com/NHL Network to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. Segment number 2 here on this Monday, March 20th edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, where the Florida Panthers are coming off a 4-2 win over the New Jersey Devils and a 5-1-1 homestand. What a stretch for this Florida Panthers team. And going back to the whole third period conversation for the Panthers, as at one point they were minus 19 in the third period. This stretch, this homestand, just in the third period alone, the Florida Panthers are plus 8 in the third period. Now it's up to in the minus 10 overall. I mean, most of their goals that they've given up in the third period have been on the road, which we'll discuss a little later. But the homestand goal differential plus 9, and then you think about the third period, just how and the clutch gene the Panthers have had in the third period to come back. I know we've seen it against Chicago, we've seen it against Winnipeg, and yet we saw it once again against New Jersey. And also to mention how this Panthers team, I think other teams and fans should be scared if the Florida Panthers make the postseason. They're a few months removed from 58 wins, a President's Trophy, a playoff series win. This team has experience under their belt. This 5-1-1 stretch is a 785 points percentage. We were talking about 7 to 750 hockey for this team in order to have a chance. Oh, do they have more than just a chance? They control their destiny, baby. And Scoreboard Watch helped on Saturday night with the New York Rangers beating the Pittsburgh Penguins 6-0. I mean, last time I checked, the New York Rangers were also beating the Predators 7-0 in the middle of the second period. Yeah, the New York Islanders didn't lose against the San Jose Sharks. They were down 1-0. Kevin LeBanc scored early for the Sharks, and then the Islanders scored 4 unanswered to win. But the Panthers, they're so well in control. And you think about the upcoming stretch for the Panthers, where 7 road games left, where they're 14-17-3 with a minus 23 goal differential on the road, while at home they're plus 31. Just night and day how this team is performing. And listen, 5-1-1 homestand, you did what you had to do at home. Can they do it on the road? And thankfully for this team, let's just take a look at just the rest of their road games coming up for them. Detroit and Philadelphia, both non-playoff teams. Ottawa, not a playoff team, but still very tough out for this team. You have Montreal there. Yeah, you have Toronto, very tough team, but they blew multiple 2-goal leads in the last week. Columbus and Washington, very favorable road schedule. Only one playoff team is there, and you're 14-7-3 on the road. This is an opportunity to carry what you did at home to this stretch. 13 games left, 7 of them on the road. And when you think about the Panthers figuring it out, if you could just imagine that old Nickelodeon show, Figure It Out, and every time they do something right, the little jingle. Can't play the actual jingle because it's copyright reasons, but it's crazy how Nickelodeon Studios was Blue Man Group, and then Blue Man Group is no longer a thing at Universal. And it's just an empty building, nothing going on there. But that's enough of theme park talk here, as I live in the tourist attraction of the United States. But this team has figured it out, and let's do another quick Nickelodeon reference. This team has guts. Barkov has seemed to have shaken off his hand injury, and Bob has been, even though he a little bit of a 3-game stretch where he wasn't what he was in the beginning of 2023, he's looked back to his form. And Saturday night was another example. I'm not going to put really any of the goals on Sergei Bobrovsky. And Sam Reinhart, yeah, he's up and down, but when you see this version of Rhino, and I don't know if Paul Maurice is going to put him back on the top line and downgrade Anthony Duclair on Monday against Detroit. I don't know, but I won't necessarily be angry about it neither, because if this is the Sam Reinhart you're going to get, by all means, let the coach knows more than I do, obviously, but let's just talk about also money puck odds for the Florida Panthers. Just 4 days ago, their odds were at 43%. Now they have passed both the New York Islanders and the Pittsburgh Penguins. 66.4% for the Panthers, 64.4 for the Penguins, 63.3 for the New York Islanders. And why should teams be scared of the Florida Panthers? Is because of how they perform against some playoff teams. I mean, 2-2-0 against the Boston Bruins. Yeah, they're 1-1-0 against the Carolina Hurricanes, which they still have a chance to get wild card 1. We were thinking that if the Florida Panthers were to get into the dance, that it was for sure the President's Trophy winning Boston Bruins, but it's not a guarantee. And the Panther fans should hope that it's a New Jersey Devils versus Florida Panthers matchup, because man, do the Florida Panthers match up well against the Devils. And they have a road win this year against the Devils. Let's not forget that. So, and the one that they lost, they had a lead going into the third period too. So the matchup is good. Is good for the Panthers against this Devils team, and a little bit of a veteran team for the Panthers too, when you add the Stalls into the mix and the guys who have won a playoff series. The Devils don't have that. The Panthers should hope that they face off against the New Jersey Devils. And when it comes to how the Panthers have performed as far as record-wise, most of their bad losses have been mostly against Western Conference teams. So you have enough of a sample size against the East. And yeah, it's better against the Atlantic than it is against the Metro. But I would really like the Florida Panthers' chances, especially if they go up against New Jersey Devils in the first round. I'm not very optimistic that the Florida Panthers would beat the Boston Bruins nor the Carolina Hurricanes in a first round series, but I think they would match up well against both of them, at least a 5-6 game series. But I'd be really, I'd be really confident if the Florida Panthers were to get that first round matchup, and I think teams should be scared of this Panthers team. They should be scared of the Islanders too because they have the playoff experience. Pittsburgh, of course, the superstars: Crosby, Malkin, Letang. But man, bottom six for the Pittsburgh Penguins is just if it's not the superstars scoring, it's really hard to find goals for the Pens. And Tristan Jarry, man, he's coming back from injury. He just hasn't been the same since coming back. And the Panthers are an absolute threat in this Eastern Conference. And it's still looking like the Carolina Hurricanes will likely win the division. They do have a game in hand on New Jersey, and they are 3 points ahead. But you could very well see a matchup between Florida and New Jersey in round. It's no guarantee that it's going to be Jersey, New York Rangers, and man, the New York Rangers have had a great stretch separating the Metro team as well in the same week. And let me check that New York Rangers Predators game again. Oh, it was a 7-0 final. So no goals after the second period. So it ended up as the same thing. And 7-2. Minnesota beat Washington. So you can basically write off the Caps and the Sabres as far as teams behind them. So now when it comes to scoreboard watching, when it comes to looking at the race, there's only 3 teams to look at. 3 teams, 2 spots, one's going to miss out. And man, the Florida Panthers just over the last week and a half just have been just putting people on notice. Even like I listen to the Jeff Merrick show every day. Not too much of a mention of the Florida Panthers, but then there was a mention of it. It's like, could they possibly make the playoffs? And yes, sir, they really could. They 7-2-1 in their last 10. That is better than what the Lightning have done lately. Better than the Toronto Maple Leafs have done lately. And that's a better record than the Carolina Hurricanes in their last 10. New Jersey Devils. The Panthers are playing, and it's not always about the best team. It's the team that gets hot at the right time. Let's not forget that. And that's why Paul Maurice talks about if they were to qualify for the postseason, what kind of habits can this team try to create in order to get those wins, those grinded out wins. And the Panthers on Saturday, that was your textbook grinded out win, because you think about just even when they fell behind, how did those 2 goals happen? Silly mistakes like Brandon Montour not keeping the puck in the blue line, and then Nico Hischier using his speed to take it the rest of the way. And just second one was a little bit of a fluky one, as the times that you see multiple bodies fall on the ice and when they're not personally colliding with anyone else, it was a little bit of a freak goal for New Jersey. But then the Florida Panthers just stuck to their game. They did what they did what they had to do to get a win. And man, the Florida Panthers just in a great position, just 1 point out of the wild card race, less than 1% separating the 3 teams. And it's gonna be fun. This is gonna definitely be just a little bit of a fun last 13 games for this Florida Panthers team. In segment number 3, we're going to discuss the Florida Panthers going on a back-to-back, hitting the road, and discussing the Florida Panthers goaltending situation going into the road trip, and also preview their game against the Red Wings. We're going to discuss that next year on the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. But first, we're going to tell you all about Built Bar. Are you looking for a delicious treat but don't want to sacrifice but you don't want all the fat and calories? Then you got to try Built Bar. What makes Built Bar so good? Well, for starters, they're covering 100% real chocolate. That's right, real chocolate. And they come in unbelievable flavors like churro, peanut butter brownie, and coconut almond. I'm not sure how Built does it, but these taste like a candy bar while maintaining amazing macro. And now you don't need to wait around to get a box. For years, we've been talking about ordering your Built Bars at Built.com. Now you can get yours at a local Walmart and Sam's Club. That's right. Head to your nearest Walmart today. Walk to the pharmacy section and grab yourself a box of Built Bars. You can pick up your 4-bar box of cookies and cream, double chocolate, and coconut puffs. And if you're at Sam's Club, you can grab a 13-bar box with our hit flavors, brownie batter and churro. You can thank me later. Third and final segment on this Monday, March 20th edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Florida Panthers 5-1-1 on the homestand. Now it's time to turn the page. As the Cats, like we spoke earlier, 7 more road games, a very favorable one. And back-to-back, only 2 of them left on the year for the Panthers. This one in these next 2 days, and then next week where they face the Maple Leafs on the Wednesday and then Montreal on the Thursday. All of them will be road back-to-backs for the Panthers. A little bit of a note, Alex Line has been recalled by the Florida Panthers after starting 2 games for the Charlotte Checkers on the road in Toronto and stopping 34 of 35 shots in the 2 games, including a shutout. And the magic number for the Checkers to clinch a playoff spot, we're talking playoff numbers now, is 9, right at 9. 2 wins for the Checkers. Alex Line looking great. Calder Trophy champion too. Let's not forget that that's on his resume. And likely he's going to start one of these 2 games. And this is the mindset going into this back-to-back. Start off with Bobrovsky. Start off with him because you want to set the tone. You want to get a dub out of the way. And once that dub is out of the way, which we're hoping for this Panthers team, then you put him in and of course the confidence that Alex Line has had going back to the AHL and not going a long time without getting games in, which is so beneficial. Of course, we knew that Matt Gusta, when he was coming up, he was just to sit there for the Panthers in case of in case of emergency, break glass, and then he's in. But getting a few starts under him and going and getting the 2 wins and just very, very encouraging the fact that he was able to get that and preparing for a start likely on Tuesday. But going into Monday's game against the Detroit Red Wings, the Florida Panthers have already won the season series against the Red Wings. The first matchup between the Panthers and the Red Wings was against Aleksander Barkov and the Florida against Sergei Bobrovsky, and it's crazy. 2 of the 5 goal scorers in this game are not with the team. Chris Tierney, of course, claimed off of waivers from the Montreal Canadiens, and then Matt Kierstead is back in AHL Charlotte for the Panthers. And the kind of goals that the Florida Panthers have had, getting in front of the net, on the rush, rebound chances, deflections, and then the in the first matchup, the most beautiful one of them all was Matthew Tkachuk with using his hands to quickly deceive Aleksander Barkov, thinking that he was going backhand and then going forehand in like less than a second. And of course, Aleksander Barkov was still dealing with his injury and then comes back into the game, left for a little bit, and then he shoots. And Eetu Luostarinen is there to tip it in, and the Florida Panthers dominating possession, out shooting Detroit 41-20 in that one, and going 3 for 4 on the penalty kill, even though they didn't register a power play goal. And then the second matchup, both scored 2 goals on their both scored goals on their first shots. Both team. The Detroit Red Wings outpossessed the Panthers in this one. Bob was standing on his head. Ekblad got 2 power play goals, and first one was cut into the slot, and Sasha Barkov just feeds him as he was going towards the red line. And then the second one was Sasha Barkov, a shot, and then Ekblad is there to follow for the second power play goal. And then one of the highlight saves of the year was when Sergei Bobrovsky had a save on Dylan Larkin and then had put a little mustard on it, pulled a little bit of Patrick Waugh on there as he was falling to the ice, and then going perfect on the power play for the Panthers, 2 for 2, and perfect on the PK as the Florida Panthers found a way to win that game 3-2. The Detroit Red Wings did get in a goal 6-on-5, but still a little too late for the Detroit Red Wings as they couldn't get the comeback going for them. But the Florida Panthers, they found a way to win when dominating possession in the first one, and then when it flipped for Detroit, when the Florida Panthers weren't necessarily getting the territorial advantage here. And Jonathan Bergen getting 2 goals in 2 games against the Panthers in this one. So in this season series, but a chance. It is the third and final matchup for this Panthers team against the Detroit Red Wings. One of 2 teams where the Florida Panthers faced 3 times in the division versus 4. The other one is Ottawa for the Panthers. So the Detroit Red Wings, they're just coming off a 5-1 loss against the Colorado Avalanche at home, and there's a chance that 2 South Florida teams in 2 straight days can go into Detroit and get a win. Recording this shortly after the Miami Heat went into Detroit and got a win, and hey, tomorrow let's make it 2 in a row for South Florida teams going into Detroit at Little Caesars Arena. But the Red Wings are also on a back-to-back too. Though this will be the front end of theirs, and then they'll be traveling to St. Louis. So who will we likely see between the pipes? I'm gonna guess it's gonna be Ville Husso for the Detroit Red Wings. Magnus Hellberg, the numbers for the Detroit Red Wings are very similar for them as far as GAA and save percentage as well. So they're getting saves at times for this Detroit Red Wings team. And of course, they were sellers at the deadline, lost back-to-back games against the Ottawa Senators, which put them into sell mode, selling off Tyler Bertuzzi as well. Hronek is another one, which they got a first-round pick for. So that's a still Stevie Y is building something great in Detroit, but he knew that what the position that his team was in, and knew that he needed to make the necessary changes in order to build this for the future. He's a very patient GM, and we've seen of how he's built a championship contender in Tampa, and maybe it's the same thing in Detroit for sure. And of course, Dylan Larkin got an extension and was very emotional when his friend Tyler Bertuzzi was traded for sure. And so great opportunity for the Panthers. There's a front end of a back-to-back for this team. They have a great opportunity to just carry what they did from their 5-1-1 homestand. Don't let this go to waste. Do not let this go to waste, because getting 3 out of 4, but I'm greedy. I want 4 out of 4 out of this back-to-back, because the Panthers will just be in full control the more they win, and they're already there. But you don't have to worry so much about the scoreboard watch when it comes to that. But Monday night, the Pittsburgh Penguins will be at home against the Ottawa Senators, while the New York Islanders will be idle on Monday night. So a chance for the Florida Panthers to make up one of their games in hand on the New York Islanders to hopefully creep it to 1 point behind the New York Islanders right before the Panthers hit the ice again on Tuesday against the Philadelphia Flyers. But let's take care of business on Monday night against the Detroit Red Wings and finish off the season series as a sweep. And that's what we're hoping. On tomorrow's edition of the show, we're going to recap the game between the Florida Panthers and the Detroit Red Wings, and of course, prepare for Tuesday night's game against the Philadelphia Flyers. So make sure to subscribe to the show. Make sure to like the YouTube video. Make sure to follow the show account on Twitter at @LO_FLA Panthers. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter at MondoMan12, so you get all my tweets with during the game and everything else in between that. And don't forget to also subscribe to the other shows on the Locked On NHL Network, including Locked On NHL, Locked On Fantasy Hockey with Flip Livingstone and Stu Roden, and Locked On NHL Prospects. Thank you for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. Now, for your second listen of the day, make sure to listen to Game NHL. Every top moment, every top performance, every result. Locked On Game to Game covers every game from across the NHL with local analysis that only Locked On can deliver. Follow Game to Game on Locked On NHL, available on the Odyssey app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcast. So I'm Armando Velez, signing off. And you've been listening to the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day.